You're listening to Served Up, a podcast that features inspiring beverage professionals and topic experts that share their passions through meaningful conversations. I'm your host, Bridget Albert, also known as the Market Fresh Mixologist, an industry mentor with decades of experience. Grab a cocktail and sit back. Let's learn how we can make a positive impact in our industry. Hey y'all, it's Bridget here. Welcome to a delicious journey with Chef Shannon Smith, the talented author of the Hidden Table Cookbook. Join us as we explore Shannon's culinary inspirations, her journey through the world of cooking through her travels, and the heartfelt stories behind her beautifully crafted recipes. With a passion for seasonal ingredients and the commitment to sharing joy through food, Shannon's insights will not only tantalize your taste buds, but also inspire your next home-cooked meal. Get ready to discover the magic of cooking that brings people together one recipe at a time. So sit back, relax, grab yourself your favorite cocktail, and enjoy the show. Shannon, welcome to Served Up. I'm really excited to have you on our show today.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Wonderful. Can you tell our listeners a bit about your background and what really spurred your passion and your love for all things culinary?
Well, I started cooking later in life. Actually, my first career, I was a seamstress, and I studied design in college. Actually, home economics is my bachelor's degree. And then I went on to graduate school to study clothing design. And that's what I did for about 10 years. And it was not until I was in my late 30s that I switched careers to the culinary side. And the reason I did that was because of a divorce. I had been married for about 10 years. I had two very young children, and I wanted a divorce from a really rough situation. And my attorney said, Shannon, you need to get a job with a regular paycheck to prove that you can support your children. And I got a job teaching cooking with some underprivileged kids at an apartment complex here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where I live. And I loved it. I loved teaching. I loved, I didn't know a lot about cooking at the time, but I knew enough to teach them how to cook meals from the food that they got, like from food stamps or their parents were getting from food stamps. And they would come to this little apartment after school, and I would teach them how to make snacks and how to cook on a grill. I would carry a little portable grill, and these kids, they showed up to get something to eat, but their requirement was that they had to cook with me. And I watched relationships form with these kids, and it really stirred up a passion with me for not only teaching, but learning how to be a better cook. And so I went on to a culinary school here in Tulsa and learned for about 2 years under a CIA trained chef. And then I remarried a man who was taking me around the world. And that's where my love for travel began. And during those travels with him, I was, we were doing all the things that tourists do, going to the museum, seeing monuments and all of, eating at great restaurants. But because I was in the process of learning about food and cooking, I was much more interested in who was making that food when we traveled. Where was this food coming from? Where did they learn it? And so I changed my way of traveling and started traveling alone because my husband wasn't interested in those things. And I was finding people around the world who would teach me. And this was back in the early 2000s when it wasn't a real big trend at the time to take cooking lessons abroad or to do food tours. This was just beginning. And so it was hard for me to find some of those people, but now it's been 15 plus years, 20 years that I have made a career from this. And I have written about it, and I've been to over 53 countries, or not over, I've been to 53 countries, many of them multiple times. And this has kind of become my life now. I travel about 40% of the time or of the year, and meet some amazing people who have taught me how to cook the foods from where they live. In turn, I bring it back to the States and put on these what I call experiential dinners in my home here in Tulsa. And it might be a night in India, a night in Morocco, a night in Mexico. And people come. I put on these 5 to 6 course dinners, cooking food that I taught in those places, and telling the stories with it. So it's not just they come and eat and dine at my table, but they get to hear about it, and in the end, hopefully feel like they were in that place.
That is
so that was a long answer to your question,
No,
but
I love it because I do feel that travel is your best education. I too have gone to probably not as many countries as you have been, but pretty darn close. And I do feel like you get the best education by traveling. And you also get that beautiful connection, right, with culture, which is so important, which can break down so many barriers and biases. And so, can you maybe share some of your more memorable experiences that you've had personally while traveling? Maybe a couple of your aha moments that maybe have changed a little part of you that you were able to bring back to your table?
oh gosh, there are so many aha moments. And that's what has made my life, I think, so interesting. And, I have a really unique, I think, ability to make friends and um, to make people trust me. And I think part of that is because I'm very curious, and I show a genuine interest in people, and people, we all appreciate that as humans. We want to feel important, and I try to do that with people I meet, and that in turn creates a lot of opportunities for me. So the aha moments, one that is in particular is Mexico. During COVID, when I wasn't able to travel to Europe or to many places in the world, Mexico became available sooner than many other places in the world. And so I started going to Mexico, not to the beaches and the resorts where I had been before, but to, inland and to the many cities. I've been all over Mexico now, meeting people and going into villages, and not only working with cooks and chefs, but also artisans and it has created in me a real passion for Mexico. But something that has come out of those experiences with me is the women that I have met. And I have written about 4 very important women in Mexico that had a huge impact on me. So an aha moment is the beginning of that experience, which was when I was in a resort community, and this was right during COVID, and I was getting a massage in a very elite resort. And while I was getting this massage, it was from a man who was American and had married a Mexican woman, and so he'd been living in Mexico for decades. And I said to him, "Do you know anyone who could teach me how to cook the food from this region?" And this was in the state of Nayarit. And he said, I'm not sure, but give me your number, and I'll if I think of someone, I'll let you know. So about 2 weeks later, after I'd gone home, he sent me a WhatsApp and said, "I've been thinking about your question, and I'm giving you the name of this woman. Her name is Alondra. She wrote a cookbook based on her research in her home state of Nayarit. and she teaches some cooking classes, I think. But a friend of mine gave me her number, and here it is. So maybe she can help you. I immediately sent her a message, told her what I do and who I am and that I would love to learn from her. And about 2 months later, I met her at in a little beach town, Bucerias, because she had driven there, rented a little kitchen just so that we could cook together for 4 days. We became very close friends during those 4 days. I learned so much from her. We cooked nonstop, day and night. After the 4 days were over, I ended up riding with her to her hometown of Tepic. And then we met again a few months later in Mexico City, where she introduced me to Paco. Paco is a culinary food guide, and he and I have become dear friends. He's taken me on probably 10 or 12 trips around Mexico that are very food focused. He, in turn, has introduced me to other women. There's a woman named Rosalba, and she lives in the state of Michoacan. She helped put the cuisine of Mexico into the UNESCO organization because of her focus on food from her own state. I got to cook with her for a couple of days. These experiences just kept happening in Mexico, where different, levels of introductions just kept occurring and kept occurring. And it's been one of the things I love is they are so appreciative that an American, a foreigner, is interested in them and interested in their culture and their food. And they embrace that, and in turn introduce me to more people. So that has been a big aha. I wouldn't say that's many moments, but my appreciation for Mexico and the people of Mexico and their cuisine has really developed for me. And I've tried to share that with people in the United States, who many of us do not understand that Mexico is a huge country. And just like really many other countries in the world, it's very diverse. And the food has so many wonderful stories and history that make it very special to me.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that Mexico is actually quite complex with culinary and with beverage, and that we need to really open our eyes past, the chips and salsas and the tacos, although they can be delicious, right? They have so much more to offer within their culture.
That's true. I was just last week, I was in Guadalajara and went to tequila, and I was with some friends that are in the spirits industry, and I got to go to several distilleries and learn the process of tequila making, which I know you are very familiar with. I've done the same in Oaxaca. These agave spirits are fascinating. And I think people in America take that for granted and don't understand what an artistry this is. And, we're taking taking tequila shots. We're in Mexico, you sip it and you appreciate it. And that's just one part of Mexico or the culture of Mexico that I think is not understood by Americans.
Yes, I agree with you. And I think that, just sings through to so many other cultures around the world as well. When we talk about the culinary, the beverage, that it's not one note. There's so much behind it. And it is quite complex and very beautiful when you start digging in and hearing the stories. And you're so fortunate to actually be invited to people's homes, to learn. And then in return, to share their stories. You have a very important mission, I feel, to break down some barriers that currently exist within culinary and beverage.
Thank you. That is one of my goals, is to break those barriers in all over the country or all over the world, but Mexico for sure, because we're neighbors, to them. And it's a misunderstanding A lot of Americans have been to Mexico, but as I said before, they're going to the resorts, they're going on cruises, which are wonderful, and that supports them economically. But I want people to go to Mexico City and go. I remember the first time I went to Mexico City, all my friends were, because I travel alone most of the time, said, Shannon, you can't go alone. You can't go to Mexico City. It's so dangerous. And, I hadn't been there yet. But once I had gone, I came back and said, yeah, there are parts that are dangerous, just like every city in the United States. You have to be careful. But what an incredible city it is. And it's that way all over Mexico. And yes, there are dangers,
Sure.
but you have to be smart. You have to travel smart.
Yeah. Yeah. And that goes for anywhere around the world, right?
Right.
You have to be aware of your surroundings, and let's be real, like, don't be stupid when you're
right.
out.
And there are a lot of places, and including Mexico, where I hire a guide. And in Mexico, it's Paco, and we've now become friends. But, that's one of the things that I do tell people is I don't just hop on a plane and show up.
Right.
I have a plan. And when I go to India, I always have a guide, because that's a place that I'm certainly not going to drive. And most of the time wouldn't even get on public transportation. But having a guide has many benefits.
Yeah.
Including safety.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Can you talk to us about how your book, The Hidden Table, came to life? What is its purpose? Where was where was your inspiration to create this book? And where can our listeners find it?
Well, I just this summer came my baby called The Hidden Table. This is a cookbook. It's a storybook and a cookbook that took me 6 years to write. I was, as I said, I've been traveling and cooking and teaching for nearly 20 years or over 20 years. And people were always asking me, when are you going to write the book? And I was already writing the stories, or many of them, and putting them on my website, which is chefshannon.com. But a book was just, I couldn't even imagine. I'm not a trained writer, and I didn't know how to even go about it. But for whatever reason, 6 years ago, I decided to try it. I did self-publish, which was that's another whole story on how to do that. And it was not easy, but I had a lot of help with the writing. It is titled The Hidden Table because it is a book that is about many of the hidden tables. And I say that in quotes, where I've been around the world. It might be, a dining room table, a picnic table, a hay bale, a fishing boat. I mean, so many different places where I have had the privilege to commune with other people who tell me their stories and who give me their recipes and cook with me or cook for me. And so I wrote many of these stories and put it into a book. And it's got 12 chapters, and each chapter is a different place in the world from where I've cooked, with the stories and recipes that go with them. And not all of that. For example, there's one chapter that's titled The Andes of South America. At first, I was going to title it South America, and I realized, well, I haven't been all over South America, so I can't really title it that. But then I realized, well, I've been to 4 countries, and they're all along the Andes. And that's where I went and cooked with people, mostly over fire, outside. And I thought, well, that and it was very impactful in the way I cook with fire and the kind of food that they prepare in that area. And so I said, I've got to have a chapter on that. There's only one chapter that is from the United States, and that is the chapter titled New Mexico. And in that chapter, I talk about chilies. That's mainly the theme of that chapter. And I grew up going to New Mexico. My grandparents are from there. My mother's from New Mexico. And I grew up going to Santa Fe. in Albuquerque. And it was there that I haven't cooked much there. I mostly just go and visit the markets and eat the amazing southwestern food of New Mexico. But it was an important part of my life, still is, and I had to put it in the book. So that's the one place that is in the United States that I wrote about.
Is really interesting versus just, having chapters on seasonality or a particular very vast location. You're really dialing it in. So when folks go to visit, let's say a Santa Fe, it might inspire them to actually visit a market. Is that something that you do on travels? I know for me, when I discover new places, and it drives my husband a little crazy. He's like, why are we in a grocery store? Or are we out in the market? I'm like, would you look at those tomatoes or whatever it might be? Is that similar to your journey as well?
Oh my gosh. It's my favorite thing to do when I travel is go to grocery stores and markets. And it's sometimes really hard and frustrating to me because I see this beautiful produce. And I was in Colombia last November, and to see the fruits that I'd never heard of. And the frustrating part was knowing I can't take this home and knowing I'm never going to see this again. I'm never going to taste this again. And so that part's hard for me when I go to markets, but I bring back so much food, Bridget. It's insane. The amount of food that I bring home with me from these travels. I usually buy an extra suitcase, but I also have, in the way that I pack, I had this giant duffel bag. I bought it at TJ Maxx probably 10 years ago, and it's just it for probably $10. And it lays out flat in my suitcase, and I can fill it up. It is so strong. And then I send it home, as a checked in bag. And I can't tell you how much food I have put into that thing, but I buy spices, I buy nuts, I buy oils, I buy preserves, cheese. Just recently I've been able to start bringing cheese back. I even bring salamis and all that stuff from Italy, which probably aren't supposed to do it, but I do. And the amount of food that I bring back, and I some of it I give to chefs, as a gift, but most of it I use in my cooking for my dinners.
Well, it's interesting.
Markets are the best.
Markets are the best. And you mentioned like Italy. I think that what for our listeners that maybe have not traveled so much, and this, by the way, served up, we're in a lot of countries. Okay. So we're an international podcast. But for those that maybe that haven't had the experience or the capability to get out there and really travel the world, when you go to a place like Italy and you go to a butcher or you go to one of the, the beautiful cheese shops, whatever it might be, they vacuum seal that for you.
Yes.
They make it real easy and really tempting to go out and buy that $10.
That's right.
It's from TJ Maxx and fill it up with a lot of goodies to take home. They make it easy for you, right?
So I have to tell you, this just happened. So I go to Italy 3 times a year. And so the last time I was there was in May. So it's already hot here. There's a point to that. In Oklahoma, it was already 100 plus degrees. I went to Italy and, of course, and I usually buy all my cheese and things the last day or two. But I'd been in Naples and Sorrento and Rome, and had bought cheese in all 3 of those places, vacuum packed. So some of it had already been in my suitcase for several days. So I packed this whole bag. It was a cloth bag. It was not that duffel bag because it was full of other things, but it was my cheese bag. And I checked this bag, and I get home and it doesn't arrive. The other bags had come, but not the cheese. And I'm thinking, oh boy, they caught, I got caught. They caught my cheese. I'll never see it again. But I went ahead and filed a report with American Airlines and never heard from them. And I thought it's gone. I was sad, but I took the risk. It was gone. 12 days later, I come home and it's sitting on my front porch from FedEx. FedEx. So wherever it had been, I think it had been in Dallas, they had FedExed it to my house. And I opened it. It had never been opened because no one had opened that bag. And all my cheese is there. And you could smell some of it. But I'm telling you, of all the cheese, I only had to throw out 3 little pieces that were just getting a little skanky. But all the rest I put in the fridge, and I'm still grating it over things. Most of it was hard cheese.
Yeah.
But my point is, you can't cheese. It ages. I mean, you can keep it out of refrigeration for a very long time, and yes, you can bring it back.
Oh, 100%. And you should, folks. You should. Because let me tell you something. If you have the chance to go anywhere in the world where they have damn good cheese, would be France, it might be Italy, wherever you are, it's going to taste a hell of a lot better than what you get from the grocery stores here in the United States. And please put down and stop using the green plastic. In my house, we call it sprinkle cheese, that comes out of the little thing.
Cheese.
It's not even cheese. It's not even cheese. Let's be real. No. And when you travel abroad, a lot of times, if you get a nice Parmesan or whatever it might be, it's cheaper than you would find here in the specialty grocery stores by sometimes half.
Yeah. The one thing I wish I could bring back from Italy, well, there are a lot of things, but one is the ricotta. Mm-hmm. Is they make it from sheep's milk, and it's so sweet, especially in Sicily. I go to Sicily a lot, and they have the most amazing ricotta cheeses. But you can't bring that back. So I just have to experience it and try to keep it in my memory. The bad thing about when you eat that last bite, that it's gone, and it's gone forever. So that's hard for me when I finally am finishing my cheese. I guess that's when it's time to go back to Italy. I'll tell you, though, the other thing that I collect other than cheese is dried chilies. I have this passion, love for dried chilies. And so anytime, and it's not, people think it's just, Mexico and, maybe Santa Fe, but many, many cultures cook with chilies, including Italy. And so anytime I'm in markets anywhere in the world, India, Morocco, Turkey, they all have their own varieties of different chilies that they use in their cooking. And many of them you can get dried. So I come home with lots and lots of dried chilies.
Can you tell our listeners how to apply those dried chilies? Because I think a lot of times we see them and we don't know what the hell to do with them.
I know. And I didn't know what the hell to do with them for a long time. But one of the best thing to do is when you're purchasing them, ask the seller, what do you do with these? There's a particular chili from the south of Italy. I actually purchased it in a market in Rome because I had seen it on a menu in Rome, and I can't remember the name of the chili, but it is dried and it's very sweet, a little bit sweet and smoky. And you literally, while it's dry, you chop it up and you saute it in olive oil with garlic, and then you toss it in some pasta with Parmesan cheese and breadcrumbs. And that's the dish. It was so amazing that I wrote down the name of that chili. When I went to the market in Rome, I asked one of the vendors, do you have this chili? And they did. They had a little bundle of it, just one. And I asked them, is this, how it's prepared? And they said, yes. So that's one way, is to ask the person that's selling it, or if you see it on a menu or have it in a restaurant, ask questions. The other thing in regards to how to prepare, well, obviously we have Google on our phones. So if you see a chili, put it in your phone, find out how other people use that chili. But you can also make some amazing sauces. So I have a lot of dried chilies in my kitchen right now that I didn't write the names of them when I purchased them. So I don't really know what they are. So I will rehydrate them and blend them with tomatoes or oil and make a sauce. And so I may never reproduce that sauce again because I was just throwing things into the blender. But that's what you do. You rehydrate and then blend it with something.
It sounds so good. I'm hungry now. Thank you. Amazing.
I'm always hungry.
Oh my gosh. I wish that we lived closer. I think that we would be very good friends.
I think we would too.
I'm serious. I want to switch gears a little bit because you do have like a mission with a vision where you do share your skills with women in need, and you do have a very compassionate, thoughtful heart. Can you talk about some of the things that you do and to give back to women that are in need, and really where that urgency and need and passion stems from?
Well, it stems from my ex-husband. And this would be my second ex-husband, who I was married to for 17 years. He's a wonderful man, and he wrote 2 books and was an expert on microfinance. Microfinance is a banking program that gives small loans to people, mostly in third world countries, so that they can start a business. And it's a very impactful and important program for impoverished people who really want to work, but they have no capital. So he and I supported many of these organizations around the world, but probably 10 years ago, it occurred to me, I want to do more. I don't want to just be, supporting financially. I want to actually work with these people, because 90+% of the people who receive microloans are women. So I went to Dominican Republic on 2 different trips and worked with the microfinance bank. And I told them I want to teach cooking lessons because that's what I know how to do. I mean, that's my skill. And so what they did was they got these groups of women who were in good standing with their loans. Now they didn't all have businesses in the food industry, but they were in good standing and with whatever business it might be. And Bridget, I'm telling you, these people don't have electricity or running water. So their business might be selling empanadas out of a cardboard box and just walking through the village. Or it might be that they have, and I'm talking cardboard boxes is very common to have as that's your store. So they might walk around with eggs to sell, or perhaps they got a loan and purchased a bicycle. So they're a courier in the village. So these women were in good standing. And so they got to attend an extracurricular activity, which was a cooking class with me. So I would teach them how to cook things using the foods that they either grew or that they could get in their market. I'm not going to come in there with ingredients that they've never heard of or can't get hold of. My purpose was to show them something that they would actually cook after I was gone, and maybe even cook in their business and make money from it. And so I did that for several days. On one of those trips, they asked me to teach sewing lessons, and which I did not want to do because I don't like to teach sewing. It's difficult. I'm a very good seamstress, but teaching sewing is difficult. But I actually got a lot out of it, and just encouraged them and showed them some things that they might sew for as a business. So I've done that several times. I've been to Rwanda and did the same thing. I also support a school in Rwanda, and the way I support it is that I donate my dinners at their fundraiser, and I've raised $600,000 for that school just cooking dinner.
Wow, just cooking.
Just last week. Yeah, last week.
That's incredible.
So it really is, and I've done this for 7 years. The founder of this school lives in Denver, and I actually met her in Rwanda on a different trip. And so she asked me 7 years ago, would you donate a class or a dinner at the auction? And then you can just come to my house. She lives on a ranch and cook these dinners. I said yes. And for 7 years, I have donated them, and I allow them to sell 3, which means I have to go to Colorado and for a week and cook three. And these are dinners for only 12 people. So it's a 6-course dinner. I call them around the world dinners. So each course is from a different country from where I've cooked. Someone donates all the wine. They do a great job. And, I pair everything. But people are paying $40,000 each for these dinners.
Wow.
So every year when it's time for that fundraiser and they ask me to do it again, I have to be honest. I think, oh gosh, do I want to do this again? It's a week of my life, but how can I not do this? And that's so I will continue that. I'm going to go back to Rwanda in March of next year and visit the school again. But that's one thing. I'm going to India in January. I found an organization there. It's not microfinance, but through my guide, this is another just connection story. My guide in India 10 years ago, he and I have kept in touch on Facebook and WhatsApp. I mean, like every 2 years, we might text, hey, how are you doing? I contacted him about 6 months ago. I said, Vahab, I really want to do a project in India with impoverished women. I want to teach something. And he said, let me work on this. Well, sure enough, last week I had a Zoom meeting with these 2 women in Delhi who run a program with homeless women in the inner city of Delhi, which is gritty. Let me tell you, I've been there. And they said, would you come and teach them? They want to learn how to cook something unique they can sell as a street food vendor. And the second thing, we want you to come and teach them how to sew, because they have in one of their shelters, they have 3 sewing machines that have covers on them, have never been used, and they don't know how to use them. And I said, send me a picture of the sewing machine. She sent me the photo, and they're Singer sewing machines, 3 of them in this little room. I said, sure, I'll come. I can show them how to use those. Another hobby that I have is jewelry making. I make a lot of beaded jewelry. I collect beads from around the world. So they said, would you do that too? Would you teach them beading? I said, sure. I said, but can I bring my photographer with me? Because she travels with me a lot. I said, would it be okay if she takes photos and video of this, of the teaching, just so that I can tell others about it and hopefully get some support for them? And they said, yes, we'd love for you to bring her, but do you think that she could teach these ladies how to take photos on their cell phones? They said, these women are poor, but everyone has a cell phone and they love to take pictures, but they don't know how to take good ones. And so now my photographer is going to have a project and she's excited about it. So, these opportunities are so exciting. I don't think they don't just fall in my lap. I work for them. And I, like I said, I ask a lot of questions. And when I meet people that I think might have information that would be useful, I prod people, who do you know? Who do I need to know? And it has really panned out well for me.
You are truly an amazing human. You're out there really doing the work. It's incredible. It really is. I'm proud of you. I tell you that. I think that.
Thank you.
You're really out there making a difference.
But I believe that every person has a skill or a talent. Everyone. I mean, because, I have people say, well, I can't cook. I can't sew. Well, what can you do? Maybe you're a good reader. Go somewhere and read to people. Teach children how to read. Maybe you're a great gardener. I'm a terrible gardener. Go teach someone how to garden. So everyone has something that they can give. And that's kind of something that I like to share. I will be 60 years old next year. And this whole chapter in my life started, in my 40s. And one of the stories that I like to tell is I compare myself a little to the olive tree. The olive tree does not produce its best fruit until it's 50 years old. At the age of 50, an olive tree starts producing beautiful olives that are the most flavorful. And it continues to do that for sometimes 1,000 years. And I think, it was about age 50 that I really started producing my best fruit, other than my children who are my true fruit. But I like to encourage people, especially women who are older and are looking for a purpose. And if you're looking for it, truly looking for it, you will find it. But it's going to require some work, and it's going to require asking questions and being curious.
Well, with that, Shannon, I just want to thank you for being on our show. You have been a delight, absolutely insightful, and I would like to invite you back. Would you join us maybe after your trip in January sometime to, give us an update on what you're up to and all the good work that you're doing, and maybe even how people can get involved?
I would love to. This has really been a privilege. Thank you.
It's been wonderful. Well, on behalf of the Served Up team, I just want to wish you just some great health and a lot of peace. Thank you so much for being on our show.
Thank you, Bridget.
Thanks for listening. Served Up is brought to you by Southern Glazers Wine and Spirits. Produced by Zunu.online. Music by We Killed the Lion can be found on Spotify. Make sure to subscribe to be notified of our future Served Up episodes. Cheers.